Hello, 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 it's Jeb again, and I'm back with some more Pokemon content. This time not playing Showdown, but looking at Bulbapedia's Pokemon type chart. So Bulbapedia is a great site, and I think recently actually they added this like green border, which is just relaxing as all get out. Green, what a calm color. IMO, of course. So I just wanted to look at this type chart. Pokemon type is like, I don't know, Pokemon types are just the game, and it's incredible. And so I guess a little bit of history. So there are 18 types now, normal through fairy. Okay, that's not a counting system, but there are 18 types now, and there were 15 to begin with. Generation 2 added Steel and Dark type, and then Generation 6 added the Fairy type. Johto Gen 2, Kalos Gen 6. And so I just sort of wanted to look at this chart and put some numbers down, and just tell you my thoughts and opinions like on types, and yeah. So going from top to bottom. I just try to use my finger top to bottom. You cannot see my finger. Well, you can. Regardless. So these first three traits are sort of what I think of as like more, like these are its offensive traits. Like, what is it gonna hit for ×2, super effectiveness? What's it gonna hit for 1/2? Like what resists it? What is normal resisted by? And what does normal have no effect on? So these are like its sort of hitting traits, the top three, and the bottom three are more of its defensive traits. What type doesn't hit it? What types does it resist? And what types are super effective against it? And so for these three offensive types, we're gonna look at this row, column versus row. Let's see. A row is a series. Rows go left to right. Okay, I got it wrong. So these are the rows, these are the columns. Wait, let me actually, hold on, did I even read that right? Yes. Oh, what? I did read it wrong. Okay, rows. Yes, rows and columns. Anyway, so yeah, so we'll look at the rows for offensive types, like for the offensive sort of details, and then the columns for the defensive details, when this type is the defending type. So going across first, normal, super effective against, as we can see, nothing. And it's resisted by two types, rock and steel. And then it has, so ghost has no effect on it, and it's also not affected by ghost. Or it has no effect on ghost, and ghost has no effect on it. We see this is true in the defending. So normal and ghost, yeah, they just cannot hit each other. And then normal is resistant against nothing, and super affected by fighting. So another 0 and a 1. So this gives me, just sort of looking right off the bat, this is just sort of a defensive type. Oh, sorry, this is a 1, and this is a 1. Yeah, so like, normal is resisted by two types, but only super affected by one, giving it a bit more of a defensive kind of trait. Kangaskhan is, has seen some play in VGC in the past, Mega Kangaskhan being fantastic, which is a rather offensive Pokemon. But then Porygon 2, which is a bit more popular now, is a bit more defensive. I would personally just sort of label normal as a defensive type. That's just sort of my own label, and I don't even think really it's defensive. I just think it's more defensive than offensive, just sort of based on these numbers. So then we can go down to fighting. So fighting is super effective. Fighting's Fighting's a cool type. I really like fighting. Fighting's super effective against normal. 1, rock. 2, steel. 3, ice. 4, dark. A whopping 5, which is, it's a really big number. We're not going to see that. I don't even know if at all. But I guess we'll get down to it and see. Fighting, but then is resisted by the same number. Flying, poison, bug, psychic, and fairy. So fighting is, so it sort of neutralizes out its, and then actually again, ghost. But ghost can hit fighting, which is a big bummer. Yeah, so it's a bit, so it's really, really offensive against just so many types. That's nearly a third of all Pokemon types. And yet it like sort of has this -1 in the offensive category. I would say like, 5 minus this number, 6. Because it can't hit Ghost, which is just, it's just a really big bummer. And then so fighting, not affected by, I think everything hits fighting. And resistant against rock, bug, and dark. So that's 3. 3 cannot hit it super effectively. But then it is super affected by 3 as well, actually. Flying, psychic, and fairy. And so that actually is a 0 in the defensive category, which would make fighting, I guess, sort of by my standards, a defensive type. But just the fact that it's super effective against 5, like fighting is just, that's just really powerful. And the types that it hits really hard, like we'll see rock, in my opinion, is just like a really strong type. The only thing to be super effective against normal is something to say, I think. Steel's a phenomenal type, in my opinion. I love Steel. Steel has like, a 1/2 or a 2 for like every category in defense. Mostly 1/2s, incredible. And then Ice, I don't know, Ice gets attacked. Ice gets hit hard. And then Fairy, which is like, that one's a big bummer because I think Fairy's a great type. In my opinion, fighting is really an offensive type. And I've come to that conclusion, like, just sort of in the past. So maybe, looking at the numbers, maybe I should listen to myself. Maybe fighting's a defensive type. Except, a lot of fighting mons are not super defensive, like, more frail. I don't know, when I think of frail and fighting, I think of, like, Halucha. I don't know, Cinderace's Libero can make it fighting, and Cinderace is frail. Cinderace is a fire type, though. That's not really fair. Terrakion, Cobalion, Verzion. A bit tankier, but yeah, we're just sort of looking at the numbers. So back to the numbers. So then we have flying. Flying, super effective against fighting. Cool. Bug and grass. So that's a 3. And then it's resisted by rock, steel, just like normal, and electric. So 3. And it has no effect on nothing. But it's not affected by ground. Really cool to note. Yeah, flying affects everything. Flying not affected by ground. Really cool. Ground is one of the best types in my opinion. I really like ground. Not being affected by ground is a really great trait. Good on you, flying. Resistant against fighting, bug, grass, that's a 3. And super affected by, also 3. Rock, electric, and ice, as we can see. Flying is closer to normal. I want to say, like, I don't know, it's pretty even. Flying's, like, I think a great subtyping. You're not going to have too many Pokemon who are only flying. Tornadus is really the only one that, like, and I think Tornadus was, like, one of the first only flying type Pokemon, if not the first. Yeah, flying, like, always comes with a subtype. So that, and it's you're just playing along the Pokemon game. It's normal. Staraptor, Pidgey, Spearow. I believe. Yeah. So flying, I would call a bit more defensive just because of that ground resistance, like, or ground ineffectivity. That's like, it's just so powerful. Moves like Earthquake in VGC can go if you have an Earthquaker and then you're next to a flying type Pokemon. Like, Earthquake can just go. Yeah, flying's really cool, and I think flying's defensive. So moving on to Poison, we've got Poison is super effective against 2 types, Grass and Fairy. Poison is not one of my favorite types. It's resisted by just a plethora of types. Itself, Ground, Rock, Ghost. That's a whopping 4. And it has no effect on Steel types, and Steel's a great type. So it has no effect on 1. It's not affected by nothing. Everything is poison. It's resistant against 4. Fighting itself, Bug, Grass, Fairy. Sorry, that number is 5. That is not 4. Fighting Poison, Bug, Grass, Fairy. You're not hitting Bug hard. Goodness. And it's super affected by only 2. Ground and Psychic. So Poison's this really interesting type where it's not really super effective against anything, against much, but it's not really super affected by much. Poison's just sort of, Poison's like, I don't know, its own like niche. However, just because of my first video and running my Landorus, I'm going to say Poison is an offensive type. Sludge Bomb is great, and it's necessary when it's necessary. Being able to hit fairies is just really sort of balancing. Like, fairies very tough. Only weak to Steel and Poison. Steel's a great type. And Poison, yeah. So I'd say having a Poison move is like not a bad idea, but a Poison type, I guess it's not a horrible idea. Super effective only against Ground and Psychic's not really sort of out there, but ground is really out there, and I think Ground is one of the best types, and yeah, that's not a good trait to have. So I would call Poison offensive. I would say its best trait is like being super effective against fairies. I would say that's its like most viable trait. So then we get on to Ground. Ground, wonderful type. Oh yeah. So Ground is super effective against a bunch of stuff. Poison, Rock, Steel, Fire, Electric, another 5. But it won't come with fightings like resisted by, like that. It won't be, yeah. So Ground is resisted by only 2, Bug and Grass. Incredible type, incredibly strong. And however, it doesn't have any effect on flying, which, like, you know what? Hey, fine. I'm okay with that personally. So Ground is not affected by Electric. That's goosebumps, right? Shocking. Yeah, like, and Electric is, we'll see. I think Electric's a pretty niche type, honestly. But I think, I don't know. I think it's a bit better than Poison, but pretty niche to sell. Resistant against Poison, Rock, which is, I think Rock's a really great type. So that's 2. Not bad. Or, two's like okay. Wish it were more. Super affected by 3 types. Sure, we'll take that. That's okay. Water, Grass, and Ice. And Water and Grass are great, and Ice is, I'll spoil it, in my opinion, an offensive type. So Ground, I would say, is an offensive type that is just like another 5. super effective against only. Well, we might see more. I won't say only these, but yeah, 5, and the resisted by only 2. So you're just hitting most types pretty well off. And it's not affected by a type, which is like just such a great defensive like trait. Resistant against, I mean, it's not quite as defensive. It's not even as defensive as poison. Or really anything we've seen so far aside from normal. So ground is like hyper offensive. Ground is I'm really a big fan of ground. Moving on to rock. I'm really a big fan of rock as well. Tyranitar, what a mon. So rock is super effective against, I was about to say Tyranitar. Flying, which is great. Can help cover for ground. And like, I don't know, just Sandstorm. Sandstorm is great. Oh goodness. Super effective against flying, bug, fire, and ice. So that's a good 4. That's a strong, that's looking pretty offensive so far. Resisted by fighting, ground, steel, bomber. Resisted by 3. Still has a +1 in the offense sort of category. Because this will be 0. As we can see, yep. And so not affected by, rock is not affected by nothing. And it's resistant against normal, flying, poison, fire. A great 4. Rock has really strong defensive like capabilities. But it's super affected by I believe the highest so far. Grass, water, steel, ground, and fighting. That's a 5. And I believe that's the highest we've seen super affected by. Yeah, so rock I would also sort of call an offensive type. Just because really everything hits rock. It has some pretty good resistances. Or resistant againsts. But really everything sort of hits rock. And that 4 is a good number considering 18. It's a pretty strong percentage. And it's sort of one of the highest we're going to see. I think 5 is just I think 5 is the highest super effective against. Yeah, so I'm gonna say rock is a pretty offensive type, and it has to be sort of handled delicately since everything really hits it. It's gotta you've gotta keep your rocks safe basically. In my opinion. So now we go to bug. Poor bug. Bug is super effective against grass, psychic, and dark. 3 is not even bad. However, it's resisted by the world. 6 might be the highest number we're going to see on this in this sort of in this note. Fighting, flying, poison. 7. Ghost, steel, fire. That's the 6. And then fairy for 7. It's resisted by 7 types. I think that's the highest number we're going to see here. Actually, well, steel's got right. This number is gigantic. But yeah, bug really just can't hit much. It hits everything though. If even for some damage. It has no effect on nothing, which is cool. And it's not affected by but it has no, everything affects it as well. And it's resistant against fighting, ground, which is great, grass. 3 is pretty good, and those are fighting and ground, some pretty offensive types. However, it's also super affected by 3, flying, rock, and fire, which is just bug. Bug can't be an offensive type, and by this sort of binary I've set up, it then must be a defensive type. And this is the binary is pretty weak, offensive or defensive, because the things that I've labeled defensive, normal I wouldn't say is defensive. I mean, just when I just sort of think of it and I don't know, kind of feel it, flying, I would say, is like, flying is really strong defensively, I think, but like, bug is, not defensive. It's just bugs, bugs. I don't know. Bugs should be treated better. It should gain a couple of new things. I don't know, like, bugs should be treated better, in my opinion. Moving on to Ghost. So Ghost is super effective against Ghost and Psychic. It's resisted by Dark. Wait, I'm sorry. Sorry. Ghost is super effective against Ghost and Psychic. It's resisted by Dark. Oh! Sorry, I just sort of thought in a weird way. I was like, wait, Dark is super effective against Ghost. What's going on? But yeah, resisted by. Jeez. No effect on normal. Ghost is not affected by normal. And it's resistant against poison. And bug. That just makes me laugh. Oh. Ghost is super affected by Ghost and Dark. I actually think Ghost is a defensive type. Like, I don't know, let's put an exclamation mark there. Ghost is a really cool type, and the first Pokemon, of course, that comes to my mind based on my team is Dusclops. And Dusclops just, most things are going to hit Dusclops for, like, regular damage, which is, like, fine. And I don't need Ghost to really hit anything if I'm going to put it up sort of defensively. I think Ghost just has more defensive attributes than offensive attributes, which makes a Pokemon like Dragapult like a good supporter. And then like, Spectrier or offensive Dragapult are not as, Spectrier is wild, but like it's not gonna hit much super effectively for its stab, its same type attack bonus, which is times 1.5. So then we get to Steel. And Steel, what a magnificent type. Steel doesn't hit too much super effectively, only Rock, Ice, and Fairy, but one of those is Fairy, and the only other thing that really hits that is Poison, and Poison is, in my opinion, not a great type to bring. Poison, yeah, so having that Fairy super effectiveness is just incredible, in my opinion. It is resisted by a fair amount. Itself, Fire, Water, that one's a big bummer. And Electric, that one I just always find myself thinking is a big bummer. Like, I wish Steel could hit Water for neutral damage. So a whopping 4. It has no effect on nothing, and everything affects it. And it's resistant against... so here it is. Oh, this is just part of why Steel is incredible. Steel is resistant against... This will probably be the biggest number. Let's count them. Normal, 1. Flying, 2. Rock, 3. Bug, 4. Itself, 5. Grass, 6. Psychic, 7. Ice, 8. Dragon, 9. Fairy, 10. That's over half the types! Steel, you powerhouse! And it's super affected by only a couple of things. With respect to its resistant against, super affected by Fighting, Ground, great, the offensive types, and Fire. Fire keeps coming up. I really like Fire. So Steel, my Steel core, Steel's tough to hit. I think it's tough to hit. And so while I think Steel is a defensive type, it has such great offensive capability. Resisted by 4 is like not not great and like hurts it in the offensive category. And a big part of why I think it's more defensive than offensive. But like, just hitting fairy, like if you just have a wall that can just sort of hit these fairies, because another spoiler, I think fairy will be an offensive type. Actually, I think it might not be a spoiler. Let's find out. Oh, and we get to fire. But yeah, like a wall that can hit fairies, you'll be set. Okay, we're on to fire. And we're about, what is this, halfway through? 3, 6, 9. Yeah, cool. Okay, so fire. So fire is super effective against 4. Pretty big number. Bug, steel, bug, lol. Steel, nice. Grass and ice. Grass keeps coming up a lot too. Grass is going to be an interesting type. Ice has come up a little bit. So a good 4. Fire is resisted by rock. Cool. I mean, good on rock. Lots of things hit rock. Fire doesn't need to, I guess. Itself, water, and dragon. Okay, so another 4, and it affects everything, and everything affects it. Affected. Affect. I think that's right and fine. I just noticed that. Affect is a verb, effect is a noun. Yeah, I think that's fine. So resistant against, moving on to fire. Fire is resistant against, nice. This is a big number. Bug, steel, that's 2. Itself, 3. Oh, it's gonna be 6. Grass, ice, and fairy. That's a big number. I don't think we've seen anywhere close to that, actually. Fire, oh, poison. Poison, sorry, I've forgotten about you. Sorry, poison. Your type. Wow, fire has a lot of resistances. That's awesome. Okay. Super affected by fire. You've got to take care of your fires, but actually maybe you don't. Only rock, ground, and water? What? That's only 3. What? Is fire defensive type? Fire's... It's definitely... I mean, super effective... Whoa! When I just think of fire, I don't know, I think of offense and like... I think of Zuko from Avatar. Yeah, like, I don't know, aggression, anger, like... Wow, fire's like a defensive type. Fire's got great defensive capabilities. I'm astounded. I have to process that. Okay, on to water. Okay, so water is super effective against... Water's cool. Water's great. I like the sound of water. Ground, rock, fire. Fire! Nice, you hit fire. Wait, that just makes rock and ground even better than I realized they were. Because fire is so defensive, and it just hits... They ground, rock, and water hit fire. Water's, that's a 3. Okay, I'd forgotten the number. Let's see, water's resisted by... Itself, grass, dragon, not even bad. No effect on it, affects everything. Everything affects it. Water's resistant against steel, fire, water. That, for me, is sort of why I think water is a defensive type. Like, even though steel and fire are defensive types themselves, water, and then ice. So that's a 4. And then water is super affected by only grass and electric, which is just incredible. It's incredible that it's only 2. Yeah, so water for me is a defensive type just because, so it only has 2 weaknesses. And if we sort of look up, I mean, yes, ghost as well. Actually, that's a big part of why it's defensive. Poison as well. Poison is so defensive. Only 2. Poison is so defensive. I think I have to... Yeah, let me listen to myself, I suppose. In normal, sure, yeah, normal can be defensive. But yeah, two is low. Wow, poison's just defensive. Amoongus. Hmm. Um. Yeah, water for me is like a great. Water's just. Water's rainy. Water's bubbly. Those are just, I don't know, things I think of when I think of water. Yeah, water for me is a defensive type. Only two, resistant against a bunch, and then this good like 3/3 sort of even, and like 3 is a sort of common number around here. 0, 5, 3, 2, 5, 4, 3. It's sort of a middling number. 2, 3, 4, 3. Maybe on the upper end. Well, we'll see in total. Super effective grass. Super effective against ground, rock, water. Ground, rock, water. Those are strong super effectivenesses. Sauce. Resisted by flying, poison. Whoa. Yeah, sorry. I did the type thing again in my head. Resisted by flying, poison, bug. Grass has got a lot of resistances. Wow. 1, 2, 3. Steel, fire makes 5. Itself makes 6. And dragon makes 7. What a big number. Wow. Yeah, grass has a lot of trouble hitting things. It does hit everything. And everything does hit it. Oh, that's not a 0. So grass is resistant against ground. Nice. Because ground is super offensive. Water, that's like okay. Grass and electric, which I think is really, really nice. 4. And then it's super affected by a bunch of types. That's a whopping 5. Flying, poison, bug, fire and ice. Grass, I'm going to call... Grass is like... Yeah, grass is weird to me. So, it's got a -4 offensively. Just doing, my interesting math. And then, defensively, it's got a -1. Super affected by... resistant against minus the super affected by. That's a -1. So grass is like... It just interacts with a lot of types. And like in... I suppose mostly negative ways. Grass... I guess doing my math, the lesser of 2... or the greater of 2 negatives makes it a defensive type. Which, okay. Let's move on to these last sort of few. Electric, last 6. So electric, super effective against flying and water. Resisted by grass itself and dragon. No effect on ground. Bomber. Not affected by... Everything hits electric. Resistant against... Flying. Steel. Itself. And super affected by... Only ground. Incredible. So electric, just sort of based on, like... Electric on paper seems to be defensive. Electric in game, like in practice, is pretty offensive. Tapu Koko, Regieleki, Thundurus. Electric is cool. It is not resisted by much. Only 4. Resisted by and then no effect on. And it hits 2 defensive types, water and flying. and then it's got this pretty awesome defense to sort of, or defensiveness to sort of like back it up. Only weak to one type, and resisting three types that I've named. Well, flying's defensive. Steel's actually defensive too. But electric is offensive. And like steel, they won't be able to. They can wall some things, but like electrical went out against steel in the end. I don't know. Insert battery pun. Regardless. Okay, psychic. So psychic is super effective against only two things. Yeah, fighting and poison. Resisted by steel, bomber itself. I am not the biggest fan of psychic type. I'm not even a big proponent of a psychic move on your team. My Metagross did not have Zen Headbutt or any other psychic type move. No effect on psychic. Doesn't even touch dark. Sorry, that was like a rude scoff. And it's not affected by everything hits it. Even bug hits it for super effective damage. Only resists two things: fighting and psychic itself. It's super affected by a bunch of stuff. Oh, I guess only three: bug, ghost, and dark. Psychic. I simply don't recommend, I guess. Let's do the math. So 2 minus 3 is a -1. 2 minus 3 is another -1. So it's got -1 in both offense and defense. I'm gonna... What is this? Psychic types... I don't know. I think of just Alakazam being frail. Hatterini, like... I don't know, and DD's sort of bulky, but like expanding force is really an offensive thing. It's really strong, and in DD with expanding force. Psychic to me is an offensive type, based in practice. Ice, super effective against. Ice is cool. IMO, flying ground, grass, and dragon. The dragon. It's resisted by as many 4: steel, fire, water, ice. Affects everything. Affected by everything. Resistant against only itself. Whoa. And lots of stuff hits it for tough damage. Fighting, rock, both offensive. Steel, fire. Did I say fire is defensive? Fire's defensive. Wow. That number was 4, right? Yeah. So it's like super weak defensively, which is why I'm gonna call it offensive. Glacier hits like a snow plow. 4 is a pretty high number of things to be super effective against. Pardon me? 4, 2, 2, 3, 3, 4, 3, 2, 3, 4, 5. 4 is the upper range. 2, 3, 5, 0. 4 is a lot. 4 is a lot of stuff to be super effective against. I played with Galarian Darmanitan, like my first tourney of 2020, and yeah, ice has good spread. Okay, so moving on to Dragon. Dragon is only super effective against itself. But it's only only resisted by steel. And it has no effect on fairy. It's a 1/1/1. That's Dragon. What an interesting type. Dragon types typically have really good stats too. Dragonite, Garchomp, Hydreigon. Look. Hydreigon. Wait. Hydreigon. I could have just clicked it. Click nuts. Komo. Dragon is not affected by everything affects dragon. So that's a 0. Bummer. Dragon's resistant against fire, water, grass, electric. All starters, including Pikachu. Super affected by ice, dragon, and fairy only. Making it on paper a bit more defensive. Dragon's really offensive Pokemon. Right, I did say Dragapult earlier, great support Pokemon. Dragons generally, I mean, even Dragapult has just a good attack stat that that can take some damage. Yeah, dragons are typically going to like hit things. They'll typically deal damage. So then we go to dark. Deal damage, dark. Dragon deals damage, dark. Duh. Super effective against only 2. Ghost and Psychic. Resisted by fighting. LOL. Fighting's a couple of resistances. Dark. That one's good. That one's really good. Resisted by fighting itself and fairy. Fairy. Bummer. It has no effect on... It hits everything. Everything hits it. Sorry, with the exception of Psychic. I was like, wait, that can't be... Yeah, Psychic does not affect Dark, which is cool, but like, I don't know, Psychic's not great in my opinion anyway, so like, that doesn't really mean too much. It's resistant against Ghost and Dark itself. And it's super affected by a bunch of stuff. Fighting, well, Bug, that's almost negligible. And Fairy, but Fairy hurts. Ouch. So 2 minus 3 is 1. 2 minus 3 is 1. Oh wait, 3 minus 3 is 0. I suppose Dark is offense or defensive on paper. And it's super effective. I mean, Bug is almost negligible. That's almost a 2 in the super effective by. But then, I mean, not affected by. If Psychic's also negligible, then it's a 0 in the defense category. Okay. Dark types will sort of usually hit things as well. When I think of them in my mind. Incineroar, however, is really pretty defensive, pretty supportive. Moltres is not, I mean, even super strong. Its special attack stat is nothing really to boast about. Dark seems to be a bit defensive on paper. I can't say offensive with enough confidence. Fairy. Super effective against 3 types. Fighting, Dragon, and Dark. Ooh. It's resisted by Poison. Okay. Steel. Yup. And Fire. Fire. That's 3. So that sort of evens out. Everything affects it, and it's affected by everything. It's resistant against, count them, 3 types. Fighting, Bug, LOL, and Dark. And then it's super affected by, oh my goodness, who am I? Dragon does not affect Fairy. Sorry. Sorry. That's one of its big defensive things. It's only 2 things are super effective against it, Poison and Steel, and it's not affected by Dragon, which all those dragons with their great stats, and it's resistant against 3 things. I mean, bug's like sort of whatever, but like fighting's such an offensive type. Fighting hits a bunch of stuff, and then I mean, dark is like, dark's nothing to mess around with. So Fairy has all of these just like great defensive qualities, and then the move Dazzling Gleam, which is just an offensive just powerhouse. I think Fairy's an offensive type. Fairy just really, 4-2/2. It's got this. It just has great offensive capabilities. Fairy sure is a defensive type on paper, and then like it just whittles things down or collapses things. Fairy's an offensive type, and just the fact that it hits dragons super effectively, it just takes them out. Just makes it so offensive. And dark, like whittling down those dark types, and then just sort of obliterating fighting types. I mean, fighting types with their sort of like frailness typically. Yeah, so just, I don't know, scrolling through 3, 2, 1, 4, 2, 2, 3. What was that? What was that incredible number 10? That was Steel's what? Resistant against. That's just Steel is tough to hit. I think a Steel core is a good core. I guess a Poison core, honestly. I mean, let's see, resistant against 0, 3, 3. Yeah, 5. A Poison core could be tough to hit. Resistant against 2, 4. A rock core. But a rock core is easier to hit. Wait, yeah, what was that other poison trait? Yeah, only 2. Yeah, Poison core. 3, 2, 2. Ghost. Yeah, Ghost is cool. Ghost is defensive. Ghost is cool. 10 and 3. That's just, what a great number. A Fire core. Yeah, I mean, as long as you can keep the sun up, like, keep yourself out of the rain. Fire core is strong. A Water core. Water's so defensive. Resistant to get so much. Only super effective by grass and electric. A Grass core is scary. Grass just interacts with like everything. Electric core, I don't know. Electric just can't deal out as much damage as I wanted to, I suppose. Poison as well. I mean, a Poison core, like, I don't know if I've seen a Poison core. And like, with Steel, you can run sort of in a sandstorm, but like Poison, there are like no terrain, there's no weather. They really go with. I mean, Black Sludge is cool. Can't really be tricked. I mean, trick. Someone uses trick, they play a trick on themselves. But Psychic core, yeah, not really. Ice core, ice is no, you can't really run an ice core. A Dragon core. Dragons have. I mean, yeah. Good coverage too. Like, yeah, I mean, Ice Punch, Thunder Punch, Ice Beam, Thunderbolt, Flamethrower. Dragons have pretty good coverage. A Dark core, not really. Fairy core maybe. Yeah, so this was just sort of looking at just pure numbers, and then ranking them, or like, defining them on this binary of defensive versus offensive, which is like maybe not even helpful, like maybe could be detrimental, like maybe, just get rid of these and like just sort of look at numbers. But yeah, those were just sort of like, in my opinions, and how I'm sort of thinking about the types, like conceptually, like, just sort of a broad concept that, I don't know, could actually be harmful. But yeah, thanks so much for watching. Leave any tips, tricks, and thoughts about type yourself in the comments. Thanks. See ya.